Hey fellow patriots, welcome to Hope for Survival YouTube. Thank you for tuning in for this video and all previous videos. I appreciate it much, and I try to drop videos as often as possible. The good news is I have remedied the sound problem for recording videos while I'm driving. The bad news is being technologically challenged. I've got to figure out how to get that video off of my phone over onto my laptop so I can edit it and post it. However, I was able to listen to the video on my phone, and the sound is so much better. So hopefully I'll get that worked out soon, and I'll be able to post more often in the next few weeks while I'm driving. So this video is titled Color My World. Some of you who are older, you might reflect back to the old Chicago love song from the early 70s about a lost love, and it was a beautiful song. And the reason I titled it Color My World is I miss the color of my world, the world that has changed right before my eyes, and our nation that has changed and continues to change right before my eyes. So bear with me as I kind of walk through what I want to share with you on this video. Those of you who know me and who have spent time around me, you know that I don't dwell on fear porn, and oftentimes don't even really have discussions on it. When I'm around people I consider my friends, we do talk about preparedness mostly, but it's from a more upbeat, achieving, learning, sharing, helping perspective. So my mind is when I'm alone, my mind is always working, and I'm always thinking, and I'm trying to figure things out and piece things together to make more sense to myself, and then when it's appropriate, I share it with you. And I may have shared part of what I'm going to share with maybe one or two of you in the past, and I may have hit on it a little bit in an old Hope for Survival Zoom session a little bit. So about 25 or 30 years ago, I was driving, story of my life, I was driving out around Washington, D.C., and I was listening to a radio talk show, and I was listening to a gentleman, a doctor, a black man, who was calling in, and he was asking the host of the radio show some really good questions, and they've stuck with me for the last 25 or 30 years. And he was telling the story of the post-slavery period of blacks in America, and how blacks were not allowed to mingle with whites. Blacks were not allowed to live in white neighborhoods. Blacks were not allowed to have white jobs. Blacks were not allowed to enter through the front doors. They were not allowed to drink from water fountains that white people used. And it took many, many years for black men and black women and black families to work their way up to having some semblance of equal rights, to work in the same places and same areas, to live in the same neighborhoods, to mingle in the same locations that white people mingled. We'll just say that was 40, 50 years, okay? A period. So the question that this gentleman was posing at that time was, why was our government now rushing the borders with so many non-white, non-black people into America? Why were these new people coming into our country, whether it was legal immigration or illegal entry? Why were they being allowed to bypass all the things that the black citizen had to work through to gain a level of respect from a white government, white leadership, white corporations, and so forth? And over the many years, I've continued to think on that. Over the last 10 years, it's making more sense now. If you've noticed, over the last 20 years in America, there has been a decline in the birth rate. The federal government will pretty much do anything to encourage white families to not have children, okay? Even to the extent of pushing alternative lifestyles, of the many movements that are out there, of forcing this idea that white children should be ashamed of the lifestyles they've had growing up. To the point that universities have offered over the last years classes on trying to educate college level entries that they should be shamed of the color of their skin. At the same time this has been going on, we've continued to flood by thousands of non-white people into our country. And even to the point that you may have noticed in the last 5 or so years, we have non-white, non-black, we have brown skin people coming into our country. There are some estimates that prior to the current administration, there were in the neighborhood of 35 to 40 million already in the country now. And counting the current administration, they're saying under the current administration they've already let in about 9 million, and another 6 million will come in before this term is up. So we're looking in the neighborhood between 50 and 60 million non-citizen people who have crossed our border, okay? Wind back a few years to the administration prior to Orange Man. There was this thing called the Arab Spring. And when the Arab Spring occurred, there were millions of brown people totally different culture and religion, who were moved into Europe and into the United States. And I always ask the question, well, there were millions of beds available in other Middle Eastern countries. Why did they not fill those beds first before bringing them to a totally different part of the world, totally different culture, and so forth? Their reproduction rate is about 9-1 from their culture to the statistics of birth rates in the United States. So that answered part of the question. So we've gone from the years the years of the black establishment trying to get established and have a good life in the United States, to the implementation of welfare and a certain political party doing all they could to get blacks on the welfare program, as it was once stated by a prior individual who was vice president at the time, that once we get blacks onto welfare, we got them. So with that thought, we look at current day, and we look at the inner cities, and we look at excuse me, we look at how many generations have not been able to escape welfare. They have not been able to escape the inner city. The education is poor, housing is poor. It is, life expectancy for males is very short. Young girls who get pregnant in the large cities, many of them are aborting and have been aborting their children at a high rate, or they get pregnant, and most often the male fathers are incarcerated. Okay. It has been proven that the two presidents in my lifetime who were the hardest on writing or enforcing laws against black males was Clinton and Obama. Okay, and that came out of the mouth of a far left-wing Democrat who made that statement. And she was encouraging blacks to look close and hard before they cast their vote for Obama. So now we're in a position, and we look at everything that's going on. Things have not improved a great deal for black Americans. There's many programs out there for them to excel and succeed. And yes, I know professionally in the workplaces there are more business owners, CEOs, multi-millionaire professional musicians, professional athletes who are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But they're a very small percentage. Okay? Statistically right now, especially since 2019, 2020, during the era, there have been more people pushed into poverty than previously, and there are more millionaires becoming billionaires. Okay? No matter how bad times get, the people at the top are still going to make their profits, no matter how bad they have to squish you, crush you, cost you your job. They're still going to make their profits one way or the other. That's just how business works. But during the era, think about how many ma and pa businesses that were crushed and shut down. Many of them were generational businesses that were boarded up and shut down. I mentioned it a couple years ago, maybe on the website in a newsletter, the number of small towns that I would drive through on weekends out doing Hope for Survival visits and training. The number of small communities I went through that restaurants were closed up for good, that were boarded up. And this happened all over the United States. Personally, I believe it was intentional. I watched a video earlier this evening. It's maybe 20 minutes. That was a conversation in 2018 between Hunter Biden and the CEO of Walmart. And it was a discussion of putting together a plan that would eventually become the coup of Orange Man. So you see, if I can watch something like that, anyone can watch something like that. This is all common knowledge, and nothing happened, nothing is happening, and nothing will probably happen to those who pulled this off. Okay, no matter which side of the lane you're on. Having served in uniform for 20 years, I'm an American first and foremost. Okay, and I supported presidents of both parties. Didn't always agree with them, either side, but I volunteered to defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Right now, there are state by state and even nations around the world, and I talked about this a year or two ago, how there would be a internet law coming, and it was going to crack down and enforce laws to include imprisonment against individuals who did not speak in line with the political party and the political message. Look what's happening in Ireland right now. Look at what's going on in New York right now. A judge previously blocked it, and a judge just overturned it, and it's going to give the governor of New York the authority to put people in camps. If you speak out of line, you better be ready for what's coming. Now, why is this? You see, they rode the coattail of the black vote for years. And then as they started losing some of the black vote, they then went to all the brown people they were bringing into the country, and they rode their coattails, and they basically started kicking the black people to the curb. And now they're rushing the country with millions and millions of illegals, paying them thousands of dollars a month, and they're going to ride this coattail too. They will work for less. The current working class people of America has basically worked ourselves out of jobs. Profit. The billionaire CEOs and corporation owners are not willing to lose profits, meaning as technology shifts and we're going more to AI and robotics, which I talked about in the first year of Hope for Survival, was the time was coming soon that many people, skilled, degreed people, are going to be without work. Okay, and I'm not a genius. It's just, it's out there. You got to read it and find it. Okay. So we now have millions of people who will work for far less, and the jobs that they work are going to be the jobs that are going to be needed to replace the overpaid workers of America today. All right. They live on a lesser scale. Coming here is going to be an upgrade from where they're at, and I don't blame anyone for wanting to come to America to have a better life. That's our history, right? That's kind of how we got started, and we've all been blessed to ride this wave. But there's a number of people, the 1%ers out there, who have the power and the money and the banks, who basically want to crush us. And now our political class, both parties, and I asked you several months ago, you might want to think about whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. You might want to ask yourself, are you an American or not? The political class has figured out that we are onto them, and we're figuring out what they're doing. So they're now passing laws and legislation at the federal and state levels to shut us up, take away our First Amendment right, and take away our ability to try to share and educate other people on what is going on. Okay? So while this transition is going on, I don't know if you follow what's going on in Europe, but Germany is in dire straits right now. Much of it is because of the migration of Middle Easterners into Germany and Europe during the Arab Spring, and they don't have enough workers. They're short on heating ability, and they're short on food, and they're paying out far more than they can afford in welfare. Don't we have the same problem here as well? Do you realize we passed $33 trillion at some point in September, and we're going to pass $34 trillion before the first of the year? So basically in 100 days, our government has spent $1 trillion. When was the last time you heard anyone on Capitol Hill standing on the Capitol steps speaking to the American people about the debt? And even when we hear their lips flap when they're on being filmed live from a testimony, it's basically a fan on high speed, because nothing is happening. To be honest with you, between the immigration problem and the forecasting of terrorist threats across our nation and our debt problem, to be honest, we should probably be, as a nation, we should probably be in crisis mode. But the fire is burning, it's getting bigger and hotter, and no one has dispatched the fire trucks to this point. So while Germany and the United States are producing less babies, the Middle Easterners, and many from south of the border are producing at a 3, 4, and 5 times the rate of Americans. So we're transitioning from a white culture to a brown culture. Not a black culture, not a red culture, not a white culture, but a brown culture. All right. And if you look at what's going on in Ireland right now, where a lot of their citizens are basically standing up to a socialist government and saying, enough's enough, not on our watch. Some are projecting, there was a great interview between Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon in the last few days, and Dan Bongino had a great show discussing Ireland as well. There are factors in what's going on in Ireland that can very easily light fires here in America. Okay, and if you look at the cities that wanted to be refuge cities for the illegals being brought in, they're now choking on debt, and the GOP has said, we're not going to give you any money. I think New York's asking for like $1 billion or $5 billion to offset the cost of housing and feeding. So they're not going to get the money. So now the people like us are going to suffer. They're going to cut 20% off the budget of the New York police force. They're going to cut education. So it's going to degrade even more the foundations that we have lived with, that's being, in most cases, a sound police force, a good education system, which has been going down the drain in the last 20 or so years from their agendas, what they're trying to teach, instill in our children, teach our children to stand up to the principles that parents are trying to teach their children, morals, faith, and so forth. So while we have wars abroad, which is never a good thing when our men and women are in harm's way, the quicksand here in America is continuing to rise, and I believe it's picking up. When you look at the drug problem, the crime problem, the topic of pedophilia and child kidnapping, there are warriors out there who are fighting this problem. And they're getting crushed by the powers to be. They're getting crushed by people in high places and high positions who are part of this demonic cult, if you will. So I would encourage you to adjust your binoculars and pay closer attention to what's going on in our country, because a lot of these things that are happening in our country, they may not be near you yet, but the ramifications of laws in the cities, many of them are going to be statewide, and a lot of it's going to be tied to the internet. Okay, so be careful where you go. It's clear as Monday on a calendar They're watching everything. They're tracking everything that's being said. All right. I can't explain to you how in this platform, but I can tell you there are systems. Think of it this way. Have you ever been talking in a room and you go pick up your phone and your phone has ads on it for what you were just talking about? Think of that in an expanded platform throughout the internet. Okay? So we all have to ask the question, how are we going to adjust? And who are we going to allow to be our close friends? Who are we going to have conversations with in reference to preparing? And who do we consider our trusted agents? I have trusted agents. Hopefully you have trusted agents. It's time to do a walk around of our ship and start cleaning the deck and decide how we're going to do business and who we're going to allow to be close to us. It doesn't mean you go down a list and start calling people and firing them as your friend. I'm not saying that at all. Okay? What I am saying to you is you need to probably be smarter. Be careful in the words that you choose to use when you're leaving messages or sharing emails and so on and so forth. You may notice I try to avoid using certain words. In all platforms, I use names for people, code names, if you will. Not that they're hard to figure out, but something I would challenge you to do, because this game's not getting any better. It's only going to intensify financially, availability of resources. The migration of the millions coming in is starting to crush the cities. I watched an interview with two elderly black ladies that lived in the projects, and they were talking about how one of the highlights of their year each year was when the food pantry came through for Thanksgiving and had hot meals for them. However, this year they weren't able to get hot meals because there were thousands of illegals lined up at the front of the line and they got all the food. Okay, and the question was, why are they getting the food before the citizens of America? And we've been asking that question. Why is our government selling us out? Why is our government, you know, they can sit and bellyache and moan all day long about the border. You either got to shut it down and protect it or not, and right now both parties is not. Okay, even if the federal government is not, the state should be and can, and they won't because of the federal dollars they're getting in their coffers. You see, almost all these folks are already set for life. All right, they've already padded their wallet, they've got everything they need, and we're just tax-paying fodder. Okay, I'm not saying they're all bad, just most of them. We are the past, they are the future, and we will continue to be steamrolled with every passing day until we've had enough. All right? So, you figure out in your area what you need to do, but I would encourage you to continue preparing, and I would challenge you. I would do a 7-day challenge, then I would do maybe a 15-day challenge, and I would do a 30-day challenge. And that is basically, you can't go to the store, you can't drive anywhere. You've got to live off of what you have for that period of time and see how well you handle it. If you don't handle it very well, that should be a warning that you really, really need to toughen up. Because for many of the folks for Hope for Survival, I honestly don't worry about you with your resources. I worry about your mindset. Okay? And it's not a criticism of you. When you've lived in this country your entire life, if you've spent time in other countries, we in America have been pampered. Our lifestyle that we've been afforded pampered us. We had jobs, we bought things, we had nice things, we had a car, we had a TV, we had a cell phone, we didn't go without food. For the most part, even in America, those who are poor are actually middle class in many foreign countries. And having spent a lot of time in these third world crap holes, and I call them crap holes because the leadership of their country pretty much put their people in these situations. Once again, those at the top had 3 hots and a cot. They had hot showers while they watched their people wading through sewer in the streets, cutting soles off of shoes and boiling them in water to eat. Okay, and drinking JP4 jet fuel as vodka. All right, it's a cruel world out there, and what people will do to survive, especially in the wintertime when they're freezing cold and they have no heat and no food to generate heat in their body, they will go to desperate means. So to all of us, we need to toughen up our mindset. Okay, I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm giving you a heads up warning now, and have been for months, that you need to be learning skills as much as you can, how to do things, how to make things that you have work in other ways. To help you survive when you can't get these other things. Okay? Skills are gold. Skills are gold. So, I've probably went on long enough in this. I hope this makes sense to you. This was all a plan. It has been a plan for many years. And if I was a person of faith, I would probably be using some words that I would probably regret later. But it royally boils my bottom that so many people have bought in and gone along with where we're at today. So be thankful for who you are, be thankful for what you have. I would encourage you to get on your knees, get your spirit, your mindset, and your life right, and make every day count for you as you go forward. Okay? And never lose hope. Okay? So, if you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. If you have, thank you. Share if you will, and hit like if you like this video. Leave a comment if you have comments to make. I'm a little behind on responding to comments right now. I've been swamped, but I will catch up to you. again, thanks for all of you. You're much appreciated, and stay safe out there, okay? Blessings to all. Bravo Echo out. Thank you for checking out the Hope for Survival YouTube channel. If you are new to Hope for Survival, you can check out our books at our webpage. Book 1, which is Hope for Survival, Getting You Prepared for Disasters, and Book 2, Hope for Survival, The Mindset, are both available for order on the website. We also offer the Hope for Survival football stick, which is a memory stick set up as a digital filing cabinet with files already loaded on there for you to digitally copy items such as deeds, auto transcript for ownership, wills, living wills, loans, banking information, items that if your home burned down or you had some form of a disaster, you could have all your important papers already digitally filed on this stick. All you do is simply drag the digital file into the appropriate preset folder so that you'll have it in the event of a disaster. You have to flee your home in a hurry, or also if you're away from home and you need critical information that's personal, if you have your memory stick with you, you can put it in your computer and pull that information up wherever you may be. Again, you can find these items to order at our website, https www.hopeforsurvival.com, or you can email me at preparedness101@protonmail.com, and I will try to help you out. Again, thanks for checking out the Hope for Survival YouTube channel. Hope to see you again.